What's up guys, Tony from Tucker Speed here with another video. This week we're going over pre-season or pre-ride checklist. We're going to use the Motorcycle Safety Foundation's acronym TCLOCS. But before we jump into that, please do me a huge favor, like and subscribe here. Leave us comments or questions below and keep this channel growing. So jumping in to TCLOCS. What is TCLOCS? What does it stand for and what does it do for you? It's just an acronym to try and help remember all the components that you want to check before you head out on the road. So T stands for tires, wheels, and brakes. Probably the most important things to be checking pre-ride. With tires, you're going to want to have a tread depth gauge. If you don't have one, you can pick one up. They're pretty cheap. If not, you can use the head of a penny. If you want to check your tread depth, 2/32, you should be looking for a new tire. At 1/32, I'd be heading to a shop and getting a tire put on. Use a tread depth gauge to get the most accurate. If not, you can use the penny and you're going to actually be kind of dunking the head of the penny or of Abe Lincoln in. And if you can see the top of his head, then it's time for a new tire. The other thing, you want to make sure your tire pressures are topped off and at whatever your motorcycle says, kind of refer to your owner's manual. Air pressure is key. We see so many bikes come in the shop that are underinflated, and that just causes a lot more issues. You want to check for weather cracking in the sidewalls. You want to check for weathering and cupping in the tread, and you want to be checking date codes. Tires do expire, and you want to check that. There's going to be like in a little oval shaped stamp, but in that little oval stamp is a 4-digit number. For example, if it says 3522, what that means is the tire was manufactured in the 35th week of 2022, and if that thing is older than 5 to 6 years, you can find stuff on the internet kind of anywhere between 5 and 7. In our shop, if it's older than 5, we recommend replacing it, but you will see some manufacturers or some people recommending that at 7. I'll let you guys make that call, but our judgment is at 5 years. So check your date codes. And the next thing you want to be checking is wheels, looking at your wheels, making sure there's no cracks, dents, weird things like that. If you have spoked wheels, making sure your spokes are tight and not loose there. And brakes, the other really important thing, you want to be checking brake pads, brake discs, and while you're down there looking at the calipers, checking your brake fittings and brake lines, make sure they're not leaking or anything like that. We see a lot of bikes coming in with brake pads that are down, worn down metal to metal, and you want to be avoiding that. So the next letter in TCLOCS, C, is for controls. Checking your controls is checking things like handlebars, hand controls, switch housings, control perches, shift levers, brake pedal, making sure all that stuff is functioning correctly, looking for anything out of the norm, making sure that it's tight, lubricated, all the hardware holding that stuff on is torqued and tight and not going anywhere, and also checking your throttle cables, clutch cable, or hydraulic clutch lines, if you will, if your bike's equipped. The next letter in TCLOCS, L, is for lighting and electronics. And I usually start, I'll grab a multimeter. Usually, if I can, I'll just check battery voltage through my battery tender lead. I'll just hook in to my battery tender lead, get an idea of what my static voltage is. Hopefully, if this is a pre-season check, you've had the battery on a battery tender over the off season, and it should be topped off if so. The next thing I would recommend doing is checking your charging system, and just doing that, just a quick, easy check while hooked to your battery tender lead or directly to your battery post. Start the bike up, give it a little bit of RPM, and with some RPM, you should see 13.5 to 14 volts at the battery, and if so, then the charging system, kind of like on an initial check, is working properly. If not, you'll want to have that charging system checked out, because you're not going to get very far down the road if it's not charging the battery. As far as lighting goes, you want to turn the bike on, obviously check tail light, turn signal function, you got high, low, horn, everything's working there. Indicators are working, speedo's correct, everything is on there. Another quick check, you might want to just look at different wire bundles, all the wiring, look for loose wires, loose connections, frayed wires, things like that. Just looking for possible issues there. The next letter in TCLOCS, O, is for oils and other fluids. You want to check your oil level, make sure it's where it should be. Depending on the bike you're riding, you might want to be checking transmission fluid, primary fluid, brake fluid, hydraulic clutch fluid, and make sure all that stuff is topped off. Another thing is you might want to just check your service records and find, get an idea of when you've had your last services done. When was the oil change last? Is it, is it due, past due, or is it upcoming? Keep an eye on your service records. And another one that's overlooked a lot that we see here in the shop is brake fluid. If you're running a bike that's running DOT4 actually kind of absorbs moisture out of the air. You can pick up online or auto parts stores like a brake fluid tester, and it'll check for moisture content. It's just a little probe you stick down in the brake fluid, and it'll tell you if it's, or how much moisture is in there. Like 1 to 2% is acceptable. Anything over that, you're gonna be wanting to do a brake fluid flush. So that's one that a lot of people don't know about and overlook, and we see a lot of brake fluids that are well over that limit. C, the next letter in TCLOCS, is for chassis. That's kind of going front to back, checking torques, looking for things out of place. You're going to want to check torques on front rear axle, triple tree front suspension, steering neck bearings, pivot shaft, rear axle, checking your torques on brake calipers, checking your chain and belt. You want to check if you're running a chain, make sure it's lubed and the deflection is correct, making sure belt deflection is good. If you're running a belt, you'll want to maybe try and pick the rear wheel up, spin it around, look for any foreign objects in the belt. We see a lot of rocks go through belts and things like that, making sure that they're in good condition, no missing teeth and stuff like that. The last letter in TCLOCS is S for stands, and it is probably the least important. Maybe that's why it's the last letter in the acronym, but your side stand or center stand, making sure that it's tight, it's gonna hold the bike up, and more importantly, whatever sort of retention system it uses, whether it's some sort of detent or spring, that it's being held in the upright position and not going to fall and drag on the road and catch on something and cause issues going down the road. So that's a quick overview of TCLOCS. This is a good habit to get in, is to check this stuff on a regular basis, especially if you're getting the bike out for the first time this season and getting out on the road. I have this board. I'm going to kind of just review all this and kind of show you some other information. But before we do that, I just want to thank our sponsor, the Law Tigers. They help bring these videos to life. They help make this all happen. And they also put a lot of time and effort back into the motorcycle community, and I can't thank them enough. They should be your first call if you're ever in need, have an accident, call the Law Tigers, and they'll get you taken care of. So I'm gonna grab my board and we'll review all this and go over it, and hopefully it all makes sense. All right, so just a quick review of everything we've talked about so far. TCLOCS, TCLOCS, tires and wheels, controls, lighting and electronics, oil and other fluids, chassis and stands. Helps you kind of just remember everything you need to do to check over and kind of make sure the bike is road ready and safe. One thing I forgot to mention before is tires and wheels and brakes, I think, are the most important thing to check. And the one thing that every day here in our shop, we see bikes coming in with cords shown on tires, brake pads worn down metal to metal. Like I said, this is a pre-season check, but this needs to be routine, and you need to be checking this stuff, probably monthly, just depending on how much you ride. Hopefully this has helped you guys out, getting your bikes safe and ready for the season, and keeping you guys on the road and off the side of the road. So stay tuned for upcoming videos. Hopefully this has been a good one. Thanks.